Welcome to another episode of Trendy with Allison. And today I have a guest that I met at CreatorCon, and she is my online bestie now. Her name is
Yeah.
Audra Brown. And Audra, she lives in Hopes Mill, South Carolina or North
North
Carolina?
Hope Mills, North Carolina.
Okay, perfect. And the name of her salon is Atomic Orchard Salon, which I love. We have so much to share with you guys today. She is an educator. She has her own platform. We're going to talk about that. She also specializes in balayage and dimensional color. We're going to talk about that. Little does she know, we're going to react to a video together of an atrocious extension to natural hair blend. Haha, stay tuned, Audra and everybody. But without further ado, you guys, welcome Audra to the show. Audra, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Kim. I'm excited to be here with you.
No, of course, we talked about it at CreatorCon, and we finally found a date. So thank goodness, here we are. And as I shared with you, I've been accused of all kinds of things since entering this online world. And I've been accused of only having big guests on, which is
Oh,
not true. And because I think, well, it's not true and it is true, right? Because I think we're all big guests, all of
yeah.
us. Just because we don't take good pictures sometimes or good videos, or we haven't amassed a huge following, it doesn't mean we're any less relevant. And I always like to make that clear because it's insulting to those who are fully booked, those who are making six to close to seven figures, who don't have an online presence, to call somebody small or big. I literally cannot stand it. Okay, so let's get started because, as I said, not all of us have the outreach that others do with hundreds of thousands, millions of followers. So, to the people who listen and watch my podcast, Trendy with Allison, who is Audra Brown? Tell the people.
Well, I am a hairstylist of 20 years. I educate through my system that I've designed of education called the Oro Method, which is a system of sun-kissed balayage. I own a hair salon and have owned it for 3 years called Atomic Orchard Salon. And I'm very, very passionate about just pushing further into the industry and connecting with other people and really making people feel like they are connected and important.
No, I love that. And when did color become your thing? Because we all have our journey into this industry. I started at Tony and Guy in the late 90s, and we were departmentalized, as many high-end salons were back in those days. Now it's so funny because you send that name down the echo chamber of stylists, Tony and Guy, and they're like, who? Guy, what? It's so funny how
Oh,
they were so huge back
huge.
then, right?
Right.
And
S
now
Factor.
and
I
now
use
it's
S
like
Factor.
Tony and what? Right? So
Right. TG.
so we yeah, TG. Yeah, Ben,
Yeah. S
so
Factor. S Factor was epic.
oh yeah, S Factor. Yes, I forgot about the S Factor. But Anthony
Yeah, the best little
Muscolo,
blow dryer that just fit in your
yeah,
hand without a handle.
I still use my Tony and Guy razor. It's the best. It is superior to any razor. I don't care about that feather. This thing is legit and I love it, and I'll keep it until the day my hairdressing career dies.
Nice.
Right? So I was they were departmentalized back then, so I chose cutting, not color. I then had to learn and get back on board with color in 2020 when my partner in crime, we were a dynamic duo. She was a colorist and I was a cutter, so we shared a clientele. So when she retired, I just suddenly get on YouTube, which is why so many of those content creators are so successful today.
Right.
I was watching anything I could to try to learn foiling, and I never did it, so
Right.
and
Dieting.
look,
Dieting was epic.
yeah, oh,
I
yeah,
feel like
that
you were the
dang,
first major YouTube
and
guy. Like,
Yeah, and Jamie Dana, those
yeah.
two. and I
Yes.
can't even believe my don't know anything ass was even trying to learn from Guy Tang. Like, you don't start with Guy Tang. Jesus Christ. But I set
Same.
myself up to fail. But anyway, I'm much better today. But you
Right.
chose color. So how do you choose color?
I was just always into it from the very I mean, I started coloring my hair when I was like 13 years old, just something to do. But
Hmm.
I knew I wanted to do color ever since the beginning. But in the beginning, when I started out, they were like, "You got to learn everything because everything makes money, and so you need to be bringing every service you could bring so that you can make as much money as possible." And I was like, "Okay, but I'm really not very good at nails." But I was doing nails and I was doing hair and I was just doing everything I could.
Even nails?
Yeah, I started out doing nails part-time in a salon in Santa Barbara when I was doing hair out there. Just to because I moved from the high desert of California to Santa Barbara and I needed to be able to make the income while I was building clientele. So I learned nails and I was doing that too. I was like, anyway, anything you could do to make money. But I like how the society is really niche down now. So I was like,
Yes.
okay, and so I had to go through a bunch of business coaching to kind of figure out where I wanted to go with it because I was like, I do like hair cutting. I'm good at it, but I'm not super passionate about it. I like doing
Hmm.
it. You know, I could, if I
Yeah.
didn't do another one the rest of my life, it would be okay. I mean, I would just be like, oh, her hair needs a good haircut. You know?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, God.
But
We
I
are
mean,
lying. We are lying. We're just on the opposite ends of that.
yeah.
Yeah,
So my
yeah.
very first salon I worked in, I worked one day and then I got let go because I fried off some lady's hair with a perm. And
Oh,
so, yeah, but in my defense, nobody was checking up to make sure I knew what I was doing. It was my very first day as a hairdresser. And secondly, the lady had gone over her own hair about 1,000 times with box color and didn't mention that part. So I didn't know what damaged hair felt like at that point because it was my first time in a salon working, you know? So
yeah.
from there, I go to my second salon and I'm like, this is probably my first week working there, and I'm doing a men's haircut. And I learned from a really good like barber stylist how to do men's hair when I was in beauty school. I
Yeah.
knew how to cut men's hair, but I get to the salon and after that first experience, I had a freak out moment. So I'm in the middle of cutting this guy's hair and I'm like, hold on, I'll be right back. And I go in the back room and I just start packing my stuff. I was like, I'm packing. This is it. I'm just gonna leave and I'm just gonna quit this industry. I'm not gonna do this. This is obviously not for me. So the manager comes in and she's like, hey, what are you doing? She's just mixing her color. And I'm like, hi. So check it out. If you could just finish my haircut, I'm gonna finish packing and I will never be in your hair ever again. Like I'm just out of here. And she's like, finish your haircut. Like,
Yeah, like why?
yes. She's like, well, don't pack. Let me go finish this. So she goes and she comes back and she's like, listen, I could see where you were going with it and I could see where you were headed and I could see where you stopped. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much what just happened. It's like,
Yeah,
let me.
we all got a beginning, don't we? Woo.
Right. So my hair cutting in the beginning was my most sketchy kind of feel. I was more
Yeah,
afraid to do hair cutting
yeah.
than color. I'm like, I can slap color on there. It's going to do something.
Yeah, yeah, true, 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 true. And I was more terrified of the color because I just didn't know where it was going to take me. You know, if I
Right.
apply that, where am I going with this? I always had more control over cutting because I can always see shapes, no matter
Right.
what. You can lay a hair that's 10 different lengths all over the place and I can find a haircut in there. So I always knew that that was my path. How did you find Audra now that you made it through, and to let that be a lesson to any next gen new hairdresser that's
Right.
watching, don't give up because it
No,
does feel
no.
super scary in the beginning, but and you do make mistakes, but muscle has memory. As long as you practice something, you're always going to get better at that something. So I never, ever, ever, ever give up because even that haircut that you screwed up, and as much as you don't like haircutting, you learned how to cut hair
Right,
eventually,
you have to
right?
go through those. You have to. It's part of this. It teaches you the humility of hairdressing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
When did it become? Because I know 20, did you have something else you wanted to elaborate
Yeah.
before I go on? So I know 2020 we talked about it, and that to me was the first time I really saw this or heard this word lived in color. And I always, you can tell you're a blonding specialist, so you know better than me. but I always think that, well, I know this for a fact because I was a fashion major in college. Hair mimics fashion, fashion mimics hair. I don't know
Right.
which comes first, the chicken or the egg. I don't know, but they always mimic each other. I don't know if you remember, like with tops, with shirts, it used to be a high low. It was high in the back and it hung lower in the front. That's
Yeah.
how hair, then the lob was born. Then you have the low in the front, long in the back. And then suddenly now we have mullets. I mean, it literally,
Right.
if you follow the pattern, you can see it. So I thought lived in color came because people were quarantined in their homes. They really didn't have to get dressed to really be anywhere, and that they couldn't get to a stylist because the world was closed. So the grow out started to happen, and maybe they wanted to go longer. Maybe it had something to do with money. Maybe it had something to do with time. I don't know. Where did lived in even come from?
So I don't know when it actually came on the scene. My first one I ever did was in 2016. A girl who was
So
a
that was
friend of
before
mine.
COVID. Okay.
Yeah, that
Uh-huh.
was the ombre. Remember the ombre was before the balayage. It was everything was dark and the
Yes.
blonde, you know?
Yes, 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 yes.
And this girl came in asking me for one, and she was a makeup artist that had went to MUD in Burbank and then came back to North Carolina. And I guess she must have picked it up there and was like, "Can you do that?" And I'm faking the funk, so I'm like, "I can do whatever I want. Of course we can."
Yeah.
So
Mhm, mhm.
I gave her what would be like the most epic balayage ever today, but it was definitely not an ombre. Like I had brought it up way too high. It was dimensional, but she loved it.
Yes.
It was fine. But that was my first experience with it. And after that, I started like, oh, I better learn this technique. And then it just kind of kept gradually evolving into what it is now, which is so it's much more dimensional now. It's much more softer now. I feel like we went from like a lot more bold to now we're moving
Mhm.
back into a lot more subtle. We're moving back into
Yes.
subtle, more. So, I mean, I don't know where the term came from specifically. I feel like there's so many people I've seen that claim that that's their claim to fame that they made that up, but I don't
Yeah,
know where
I
it came
know.
from.
I know.
You
Yeah,
can
I'll
have
have to
LinkedIn
do
if
some.
you have great coverage.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I'm going to have to do some research on that because I now am curious because that's 4 years before 2020. So my theory is blown. Alrighty. So then you went from, then you went into I want to be an educator. So let's jump to there because you have the Del Oro method. What
Yes.
exactly is the Del Oro method?
So the Del Oro method, just like any education that anybody teaches, is just my way of like putting out there what I learned in the way that I learned it and what helps me the best, So
Hmm.
it's foundations. I finished my first 6-part mini series. It's actually starting on client consultation and communication. I took a
Okay.
communications course because I was adding all these tools to my toolbox, learning just how to educate and be comfortable on screen and all these things. And so I was like, the missing tool was really the personality and the charisma. Like, how do you develop that? How do you design that? So then I took a communications course that kind of answered my questions right before I went to Creator Con. I took this course and I learned a lot. And so
Mm,
after CreatorCon, that was really more validating time for me that said I had the tools. I just really wasn't putting them all together. And so I was like, okay, cool. So I was like, well, I'm going to start at the very beginning. And the very beginning of a good hair service period is consultation. So I was like, I'm going to use these communication skills that I learned. And I'm going to design the first part of Del Oro method. So I have a like 6-part mini series posted on YouTube for that. And then from there, I've started into the balayage aspect of it. So this week I started on toners. Now I'm going to be going into toners because that's also the next scary part of doing color is usually like, what do I do after I lift it?
yeah,
Like
right,
once it's
exactly.
raw and it's where, what do I do after the hour is up and I wash it out and now that's what I have.
Yeah, so
So
the Del Oro method is not necessarily a technique, it's more of an
no,
experience. It's a
it's more
mindset.
of,
It's
right.
it's
It's
a
me
mindset and it's
teaching.
your mindset. Yeah.
Is right.
Okay.
What helps
Okay.
me
Okay.
understand. So I try to
Yeah.
go into a lot more. I mean, it's a lot of technique, but honestly, a lot of the information is the thought process behind my technique. Like, what am I thinking and why am I doing it this way? because
Hmm.
technique is cool all day long. You put that on there, but I need to know the why. Like, what she come in with? What happened the last time? And where am I headed with this? Because in a lot of my colors, I'm thinking about what am I going to do next time when this person comes back in? You know,
Yeah,
it's
no,
a
I get it.
journey. It's a
Yeah,
journey.
and with all of the educators out there now, and because there are many,
Many. Yeah.
with all the education that we have, this pool of education to choose from, what problem when you created the Del Oro method, when you thought this out, like this needs to be seen and heard, what problem specifically in your mind were you trying to solve?
I feel like I started out solving just putting out balayage the way that I do it, because I feel like people apply the balayage liner and then, or they don't apply it the way I do it, because I do traditional balayage, which is a lot of open
Hmm.
air. And the amount of people, French people that just love it, it's so funny. But I think Americans are scared to just lay a panel of blonde on the hair. They're like, is this going to be splotchy? Is it going to be
Yeah,
weird? What happens when
yeah.
it doesn't work past a level 8? Like, what am I supposed to do? You know? So
Hmm.
I was like,
Hmm.
I have perfected this, like, to the point where that's what people ask me for. You know, they constantly bring in my own pictures. Like, I want this. And I kind of like it because it is scary. It has this little, like, element of, like, oh, she's just slapping this whole panel of blonde in here. What's about to happen? You know, is this
Yeah.
going to be bad? And then when you wash it out, they're like, oh, wow, I didn't expect it to turn into this. And it's like, cool.
Yeah, it's
I
like
like that little aspect of,
like an
mm,
artist watching an artist paint, because you're not
yeah,
you're using saran wrap instead of foils, and
I love saran wrap.
you can see the
Mhm.
process, throughout. And that's what I was going to ask you, because you did just say, which is a great segue into the next question I have for you, which was what makes it different from a traditional balayage technique? But you do a traditional balayage, so that's probably what sets you apart. You're doing it actually the technical way versus some of the ways other people are doing it. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, traditional balayage is not designed to get super bright. So, I mean, I do, if someone says, I
That's
want
what
hair
you
as
mean by
bright as
that.
your
Okay.
blonde. Yeah, so Del Oro made of gold, and I take it based off of the golden hour because that's my favorite time of the day. That's when everybody looks the best in their selfies, is during that golden hour. So I was like, we'll
That's
switch
what
it
it
up.
means. Okay, so the Oral method is
Del
letting
Oro
it
made of
lift.
gold. Hmm.
Of
Is
gold.
Yeah,
Okay, I
gold is
didn't know
in
that. Fun fact,
Oro is gold in
everybody.
Spanish.
Fun fact. I love
I'm
that.
from Southern California, so everything I do is a little spicy.
Yes. Okay. Let's jump back over to balayage, because I want to
Yeah.
ask you. I feel, I don't know. Again, this is Kim the cutter who's playing the role of a colorist. You're an actual colorist. I feel like is balayage still king? Like lived in color, it's dominated for years now. I would say at least
Yeah.
10, right?
I thought it
So
was gonna fade out a lot sooner.
I'm asking, is it still going strong, or do you see it shifting? I feel like I'm starting to see it shift a tiny bit up to the root.
I feel like, yeah, I mean, they're getting closer to the root, but I feel like you could still accomplish that. But I guess it depends on how bright you want it to get ultimately. A lot of people
Hmm.
don't want to live in that warm zone. They want to be in the cool zone. So you're gonna have to do some, like, faux balayage, like foliage or something, backcombed highlights or whatever, cheesy lights, just to make it backcombed. Isn't that old now? Everyone's backcombed is such an old word now.
I
Backcombed
know.
highlights.
No.
That's what easy like that. So they backcomb it and then they put it in foils to incubate it and get it brighter. But I like traditional balayage. Not everybody wants to be super bright. Even
Yeah.
I traditional balayage all my brunettes. Like, I don't ever put foils as a brunette. I just balayage them. Most of them
Yeah.
don't want to be bright, so it's a perfect technique for them. You
Yeah,
know.
a brunette always wants to look like a brunette with sun-kissed hair.
Yes.
They
Yeah.
don't want to be over foiled or over blonded. Yeah. All right.
No.
So what are clients requesting, like 2026? It's June 2026. What are they requesting right now? What's the trend?
I mean, I'm pretty solid in just doing what I like to do, so I feel like I don't know exactly what it is, what other people are doing. But I mean, where we live at, we live in a military town. So a lot of our clients are military, so they have to keep it kind of
Mm,
natural. They can't go super crazy with like a lot of high dimension, low dimension because they're military, or if we're doing pops of vibrance, we're hiding it in their bun so
Oh,
that they can just, be free on the outside, but like in the inside they
okay.
have to have that look. So in my area specifically, I'm sure it's different than like somebody in Chicago or in, LA or whatever, but our area, we're still doing a lot of sun-kissed hair and just have a lot of,
Did you,
dimensional.
and I guess it is, based on where you live, what region of the world you're in. Did
Yeah.
you go to Premier Orlando?
No, it was my grandbaby's birthday.
Ah, I think we did talk about that in the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Any
true.
other time I
That's
would
true.
have went. Could have been with my kids. I would have ditched them, but no.
Yeah, like goodbye. You're old. You're old already. Yeah. All right. What's one trend stylists think is hot? Like we think, oh, this is like the bomb. This is the man, but clients are actually moving away from it, in your opinion. Even if not in your town, maybe you've seen it on social media.
I feel like we were doing a lot more of the chunky not too long ago with the calico and
Mm.
stuff. And now we're moving back toward the old money look and all the more softer tones, like the smaller highlights but then I did see this whole phase of 90s like chunky come through, and I've pulled out a book from 90s. That's not what we were doing. It was not looking that good.
You know what still surprises me? How many stylists tell me they've never heard of Virtue Lab products. I found Virtue back in 2017 at a hair show, and I've been hooked ever since. I use it on myself, like this beautiful flourish right here. It's their hair thinning line. There's a full system. There's a shampoo, there's a conditioner, there's a density booster, one that's drug-free, and the other one that has minoxidil in it, which is amazing, you guys. If you haven't tried these products, please do. And it's one of the lines I actually stand behind as a professional. Here's why it's different. Virtue is the only hair care line in the world that uses human-derived keratin called alpha keratin 60 KU. Because it's human derived, your body recognizes it as its own and actually accepts it. We all want products that truly heal and repair hair, right? Not just make it shiny for a day. Virtue does that. It literally fills in the cracks in the damaged areas, strand by strand. So, you guys, trust me. You'll see results after one use, but after 5 washes, honey bunny, the hair will feel like a completely different head of hair. Soft, strong, and actually healthy. So if you're ready to stop masking damage and start repairing it, I know you're ready. Shop Virtue through my link today in the description. Support the show, support your hair. You'll thank me later. Bye.
No, I agree. I agree. And
Yeah.
everything has come full circle, honestly. It's the 90s all over again. All you did
I
was pink it
know.
and
I
call it
didn't fit in
something else.
I didn't fit in the clothes very good back then either.
Yeah, so Miss Educator, Miss Wisdom, Miss All Things Knowing of Blondes, I have questions. All right. So for people who love blondes, they want to be Audra someday, and do the work, the incredible work that you do. What is, if you're a student watching this, you're talking to that person, okay? Let's talk about the prep work, because if I see one more client in her car bawling her eyeballs out because somebody fried her hair, ruined her hair, overprocessed her hair. So obviously we need you. People, the next in, whoever hairstylist, they need your wisdom, Audra. So what happens prep wise? So before you ever mix the bleach, what happens then? Where do you start? The client sits down. What do you
Okay.
do? What's the first thing you do?
I have a pre-client consultation form I send out. So before my client ever gets in my chair, I've already seen what their hair looked like in the front and the back, and I've seen 3 inspo pictures of what they're looking for.
Mhm.
And when they sit in my chair, I tell them, I'm gonna go back through your photos with you that you sent over. So that way we can see if they want to evaluate and change anything, or because usually after 3, you can kind of gauge what that common denominator is they're looking for. And I even love the AI pictures because they're not exact, but I mean, you can see what it is they're looking for if they send you 3 of them. So we sit down, we go through our consultation. I always kind of observe the hairline first. And then I go through and see if I'm going to start in the front or the back, depends on what texture of hair they have. And so no matter what, I start with a level 10 as I move up the head, and I move up to, 15, 20, 25, possibly 30, depending on how dark they are and how much hair they have. But I always start really low volume, so I know that they're not going to end up with damage in the end. Like you're talking about crying, I see so many people with just different lengths of hair where it's broken off. And so I make a lot of videos about how overlapping bleach is actually what happens when you put bleach on a hair shaft, like under a microscope, is that the hydrogen peroxide in color or bleach is causing little holes in the hair shaft. And so when you keep doing that and applying more color, more bleach over that, those holes are just getting bigger and expanding bigger and bigger. And so eventually the hair is just hanging on. This one little hair is hanging on by tiny little edges of it. And it doesn't necessarily always break off even in the salon, but you could go out and you could just be like doing your daily activities, like say you like dry
Yeah.
boats or whatever your thing is, and it's going to cause a lot of those little tiny pieces are hanging on to just break off. So it doesn't even necessarily break off all the time in the salon. So that's why the stylist needs to be a lot more careful and pay really good attention to how they're starting this process. It's unconventional, and it looks very unprofessional to have to rinse a half a head of foils because you didn't finish the top yet. Like that's
Yeah.
irrational, and that shouldn't
Yeah.
be going
Yeah.
on. Now
Well,
you
let
got a
me,
wet sloppy mess.
it's true. Yeah, let me circle back to something you said because I'm old and I always lose my thoughts. So, one thing I want you to say to the people in the back who, because that's the gripe, one of the gripes, just as real quick sidebar, you love an AI photo. Love that. Say it again. You
Love
love an
it.
AI photo.
I
Love it.
love an AI photo. I love 3 of them together, actually. Please send me
Yes.
3. Yes.
And the other thing, when you talked about layering your developer, which always, right, the hairline is the most sensitive, fast lifting part of the head
Yeah.
for whatever the reason. Somebody, one of my guests explained it. She's like a scientist turned colorist. I'm like, girl, I can't retain any of that, but I appreciate that you exist in the world to share that with us. But are you talking about, because that couldn't be balayage. There's no
Mhm.
world where a 10 volume is going to
Yeah.
lift
Yeah,
doing
I
a
started with a 10
open
volume.
air,
Mhm.
doing open
I do.
air.
Yeah. Yep. I'll do open air. I mix a 10. I usually start with a 10 volume. But I mix half balayage, like half clay liner and half sand liner. So I get that extra lift from the sand liner. But I always use a little bit more balayage liner. I mix my balayage liner surprisingly very thick. Like, I mean, it is, they say
You're
toothpaste.
saying
Mine,
sand lightener or what? Balayage. I get the clay
yeah,
lightener
no, the clay, I
and
mix clay
regular
light. So
bleach.
no, like I mix clay lightener and sand lightener. So the balayage lightener and the traditional lightener, I mix them together. And then
Gotcha.
I start with a 10 volume on the hairline, either the front or the back. And then as I move
Yep.
up, I just graduate. I just mix a little at a time. If I have to go back 40 times, that's not because I'm making 40 bowls. It's just because I'm bumping up the lightener to keep their hair safe. So,
Right. Exactly. What's one of
yeah.
your consultation red flags before we move on? In the consultation, like who's not a candidate?
I don't really love to do color corrections, to be honest with you. If they have
Gotcha.
a bunch of crazy, like if they're saying red and they want blonde, I'm probably not going to be the stylist for you. I mean,
Yeah.
especially if you're going to want it quick. So that's why
Yeah.
the photos kind of weird. They're like, I don't think that's a good. Or you can look at their hair and be like, that's not gonna get lightened at all. Like we're not putting lightener on that. I can already tell you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
mean,
I'm learning to say no. I need to say it more often because I lose more money than I make when I make those mistakes.
stresses me
Anyway,
out. The color corrections are so long. My body is old now.
and they don't want to pay for it either. So
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about that because you are a specialist, and these are the questions that I have. People who are still trying to get more comfortable with more confidence rather in the outcome of a balayage. We're going to talk about warmth because you said you're fine with just a golden blonde. One of the biggest fears with balayage is that unwanted warmth, though. There is a fine line between a golden and a, raw, that raw
Raw.
feel.
Yeah.
So how do you control it?
I mean, well, you need to lift your balayage bright enough, but also using the right toner. Because if you are trying to make everybody a level 8 and you're not lifting to a level 8, it's still going to look warm. But honestly, if you put a level 7 that's cool tone, it's going to cool it down and it's going to look blonder, It all has a lot to do
Uh,
with formulation. And I mean, it's balayage, so it's possibility it won't get super bright the first time. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 tries. It's supposed to be a whole journey, yeah. But
okay.
I feel like, but I mean, a
I'm
lot
not
of the
sure,
time,
and I'm glad you said that about the journey because I'm honestly not sure people understand that part of balayage and hair.
I have a really cool tool that I like to use that came out of my Lonza color book. It's a magnetic, like, raw lift finder, and it shows you the raw lift of like what liner does. And so I take that and I put it up next to like the actual level finder because they're both magnetic, so I can pull them out of the book. And I just kind of show them, like, if you're living right here and we go up 3 levels, this is where your raw lip is going to lie. And so you're going to be somewhere in here. If you don't like that, we're going to move into foiling. We're not going to even bother with balayage. We can do the same thing with
Ooh.
back combing and, smudging a root or shadow rooting or whatever you want to call it. But I always bring out the level finders. For me, I'm a visual person, so I like to have as many tools as possible when I'm having a consultation with a person. Like, check out these
No,
level
that's
finders.
that's
Let's see.
that's actually really, really smart, and it's really important. It's a missing piece because what people are watching, they're watching just someone paint foils on and letting it process, and that's it. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's why people watching who don't educate yourselves, that's why
Right.
you need to take her
That's why the
course. I
consultation
think her
process
point
is
the
so
wrong way.
important.
Her course, yeah, and that consultation part is so important. So you so what I think I'm hearing is you can't truly control warmth. You just have to manage the warmth, right?
I
You
mean,
can't really
right.
control it
Not
like you
really,
could
but
in
I like,
foil.
some people, there's so many different ways you could do hair and none of them are really wrong or right, but I know that when you start with a 10 volume, you can achieve the same thing with a 10 volume as you achieve with a 30 volume. You just have to leave it on longer. And so, like, what happens when you go in with a 30 volume is it exposes the warmth faster than if you go in with a low volume and just wait longer. So I don't ever use heat
Mm.
because my whole goal is to make sure that your hair integrity is epic when you leave and it looks like a magazine. I want it to be like,
Yeah, well, how
whoa,
long
that
is
doesn't even
that
look like me from
process?
behind.
I think it's time that people get concerned about. So, how long, if you're using a 10 volume and you're doing it the healthy way, you know, how
Right.
long average does that take, though?
I mean, it can take a while. It depends on what your starting base is, you know. But I mean, as it oxidizes, it loses its power. So if you're starting with a 10 in the nape and you're moving up to like a 15 or 20 up here, this is going to process slightly faster. It's going to be at the even amount of
Of
time.
course,
It might take longer. It's going to take longer than somebody who goes in with like a 30 volume of foils.
to
But
start. Yeah.
right, right. So
Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm. Hmm.
I schedule my appointments for at least 3 or 4 hours. So they're going to be sitting there, But the thing is, the slow process, plus I use Olaplex, plus I use K18. So I
Yeah.
mean, I'm
Say
very cautious.
low and
Yes.
slow. What do you think most stylists misunderstand about that underlying pigment?
I think that they don't understand the developer. They don't understand that it will lift just as good with a 10 as a 30. It's just not going to go as fast, but it's
Got you.
nicer.
Got you.
It's actually a
Got you.
nicer raw lift because it does eventually push, because it's going so slow. It does keep that yellow from coming in there. Like, if you use a 30 volume, it's going to lift faster, but it's going to have a lot more yellow to it. You're going to have to wait a lot longer for it to get to white, and then you're gonna wait for it to get to white, and it's gonna be thrashing hair because it's been not, it doesn't take as long. So
Yeah, and I think I learned that the hard way because I was like, Kim, you are creating color corrections on yourself, for
oh, absolutely.
yourself,
I've done that
by
too.
what you did, because you went yellow, and then now you've got to try to even this out because this one went yellow, this one went orange. I'm like, oh my God, thank God for family who let me practice on their heads because they have been through it, honey. I'm
So
telling you.
I like my Alonza, and I wish every color education book did it. The Alonza, it breaks down the percentage ratio of their color. So it'll say like, say it's like a copper gold, it'll say like 30% balanced, and it'll say like 40% copper and 30% gold. So that's how much.
That's important.
And yeah, that's really important. And so I can actually, because I understand color and I have those percentage ratios, I can go in and mix my colors. If I didn't have something, I can go in and mix those. But only reason I can do that with that color line is because I know where the percentages are at, because that they give you the percentages on their book. I've had 5 or 6 other color lines and their books, and they don't break down the color
They
percentage of
really
that.
don't. They
No,
just
so
tell
you
you
can
the
get
underlying pigment or the whatever the
right.
background is, and I'm like, yeah.
Right. So then you're like, well, but is this going to be more gold if I add this NG, or is it better off if I just add an N and add some G to it? Because how much do I need of this NG? There's like so many ways to balance it. But if you don't have the percentage ratios, it's not as easy to figure it out. It's really
No,
easy when you have the information there with the percentages, the
no,
under
I
pigment
love that.
neutralized.
Like you're making me want to switch color lines.
I don't even use
So
them, but I mean, I'm not like, I'm not an educator for them or anything. I just know their color line because I
no,
use
no,
it for
I
so long.
know what you're saying. I totally know what you're saying.
But I
So,
love
so
it.
to wrap this up, the business side of doing beautiful balayages, we already talked about the average application time, right? You would say that's
Right.
3 to 4 hours,
Yeah.
respectfully.
Right. That's
Average processing time. No, application would probably be like an hour.
yeah, my applications, I'm fast at them now, so they're like about 45 to 55 minutes. And
Okay,
then
for a whole entire
I use
head.
matrix lightener, so I let the lightener says 50 minutes, so I let it from. That's why I start at 10, because I know that 10 is going to be on there a really long time, because I'm going to
Yeah.
apply it. Then I'm gonna get the top front, and then I gotta let it still process the full 50 minutes for that front to be the right color. So, I mean, if it gets done sooner, I'll keep checking it. But yeah, it's a full 50 minutes after the application, so that's already 2 hours, And then if there's a
Yep.
haircut involved, now you're talking like another half an hour at least. So yeah, it's about 3 hours. You know,
So how many balayages can you realistically perform in a day?
3 colors and 2 cuts a
Three.
day. Like
Three
yeah,
colors
two.
and two cuts. Okay.
Yeah, that's how I schedule myself. So I have my AI concierge, what I like to call it, because I like it
Yes.
sounds fancy. So
Yes.
my AI concierge books my appointments for me, and I have it set up so I don't have any gaps. So it keeps
Yeah.
my schedule flowing from the time I get there. If I want a gap, I can have a gap, but I book out my lunch because I'm diabetic, so I always eat. Super important.
Hmm.
But my AI agent can book my appointments, so I know exactly how it's going to flow. If I want to
Perfect.
double book another haircut in there, I can put it in there where I know I can do it. It's an amazing system. So, yeah, I have my schedule down to a science. I love it so much.
So you don't even need a receptionist, or do you?
No, I don't have a receptionist. My husband built me an AI agent that does
Yeah,
all
yeah, we
of my
talked
booking.
about that, but you
Yeah,
don't actually have a person navigating people, like seating people, getting them something to
no,
drink, none
no,
of that. And
we're a
you're,
commission salon. No, we're a
oh,
commission salon.
commission.
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean,
got it.
we're not a commission salon.
Oh, you're just a
A
booth
booth rent.
rent, a booth
We're a
rental.
booth rent
Oh,
salon.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're not
Yeah,
a commission.
perfect. A vending machine and an AI receptionist. Y'all go
But
do
we
you
do
in
have a
there.
nice right. We'll have a full kitchen, so if they want something, they can have whatever they want. But
No, I think
my
that's perfect. Before we move away from this color and balayage, for
yeah.
those, because people really are interested in color and blonding, especially, and just getting as much information as they can. But we often don't talk about the product uses, the cost behind it all. How much lightener are you typically using? And do you even measure, or do you just kind of work visually? Are you going
Oh yeah,
through?
I measure
Because
everything by
doing
the
a balayage, that clay
gram.
does not stretch very far.
No, I mixed it with the sand liner, but I measure everything by grams on the scale. So I worked well, I did do business coaching. I worked with a business coach, and so everything in my world, I pennied down to the penny to figure out how much to charge. So I was making sure I was making some money and then still being
Yeah.
able to cover the cost of everything. So I mean, because I use a lot more liner than color, I feel like I actually probably goes a little further because I don't think liner costs as much as color does.
No, you're right, because them little boxes now are getting pretty costly. What is your signature service cost, roughly?
About 300.
Okay, that's fair.
So,
That's fair. And
yeah.
do you think that what do you think? Because oh my God, I'm not gonna get into pricing because I go after pricing. It's crazy. But what do you think is reasonable to price out a balayage? Because you have people charging
I
$900,
know, it's crazy,
$1,000.
right?
I mean,
I mean, I
fifteen
guess it
hundred
depends on
dollars.
what
What
their
do you
overhead
think
is.
is reasonable?
I mean, for my area, I am reasonable, but I kind of think it depends on your demographic too. Like, what's your rent and what's your area making for a living? Like
Yeah,
my
true.
area,
You have to do the
it sounds
numbers.
pricey. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's why I worked with a business coach. They went through everything down to the penny, including the rent on my building and all of my
Okay.
utilities and everything. I pennied it all down to make sure that I was making some kind of income. And then it went through all the products like by the penny, how much I was using. But I use a color line now. I switched from Lonza. I use a color line called Alter Ego Italy, and it's 1.5 to developers to one part of color, so it goes a lot further.
Okay.
So I think it's important to find, and it's a really good price point. Like the tubes are like 10.50 a tube or something. So and they're
Okay.
bigger. The tubes are bigger,
So
so
they
it
go
goes
further.
further. So if you want to start out booth renting, the best thing I think to do would be get to know a color line that stretches far.
Yeah, no, I love that. And we're going to talk about your product favorites. Speaking of that, what is your favorite bleach?
I'm in between right now. So they discontinued my favorite one. I was using Matrix. It was pink. It was like their balayage clay based lightener, and they discontinued it, which was really cool.
And
So I have
the
9 of them.
curly one, which was amazing.
Yes. I don't know why they want to do that.
The yellow box. I'm like, why
Every
did you
time I
get me
find something I
used to
like.
it?
Yeah,
Literally.
so I'm about to try the Russ brand balayage liner. I've just been waiting to get up with my reps so I could get the sand based liner to mix with it. But
Got you.
yeah, so I'm gonna try that next. I have 9 containers right now of Matrix stocked up, so I don't run out.
Yes, you got it. Yes,
I was
I
like,
love it.
they sold them to me for like 3.25 a piece. I was like, I'll take them
I
all of
wonder
them.
why they did that. So clay lighteners, I use the Schwarzkopf, but it turns into powder. It's all over the place. Do they all do
Yeah.
that? Is that just a given? Because they kind of create this shell that's
I
hard.
don't I mean, I feel like it's fine. But I mean, I whisk it in. I'm a messy person anyway. In my little cabinet, there's always lightener. I'm cleaning out every single day. There's an array. I put a paper towel
No,
down to
but
catch it.
I mean, on your clients, like when it hardens,
Oh
it just
yeah,
is. They're just full of like sawdust. It's everywhere. That's the one I use with Schwarzkopf, but I don't know if
it
they're
goes
all created
long.
equal. Is that all what they all do?
No, yeah, they all do.
Okay.
They're all meant to crust
Okay.
over so they stay liquid
Okay. All
inside.
right.
But
All
I
right.
mean, that's
So
a lot of it. I do like the foil to use the plastic though because it catches all of it. But the
true.
reason I use the plastic, the most biggest benefit for me is because I do my balayage off the hairline. So if your
Yeah,
part's here or your part's there, when I'm done, I want to be able to see the symmetry. And with the plastic, I can see that if this is matching up to this, no matter
exactly.
where I do it. So if
Yeah.
they part on the side, I'm going to have obviously more to work with over here and making more diagonals, but it ends up always connecting. So I'm
Yeah, no,
always
I
like,
love that.
where's
Yeah,
that
same.
view? Make
Yeah,
sure it
same.
connects to the top.
What's your favorite color line? Lanza?
Mm, it's a mix. I like Lanza. I also like Alter Ego Italy, though. That's my one I'm really into right
Okay,
now.
so those two. What
Yeah,
about
you
your
have to know how to
favorite?
really mix it. It's challenging. There's not as many colors, so you have to really know color. And I like a challenge. I was the first person in my county to commit to using it because I wanted to be something innovative. I was like, I want to do something nobody else can do, nobody else uses. I can't buy it at the store. I have to get it from a rep. that's fine because that means it's not always sold out every time I need it, So
You
I
know,
do
the
go
only
for
other time I've ever heard about that product was her name is Lisa. She's amazing. She created this beautiful little house in her backyard. It's a prefab house.
Oh,
It's a little cottage, and she turned it into a salon. She's in Australia.
oh,
That's
that's
the only
cool.
person I've ever heard use that
Using
line.
it? Yeah, it's
Hmm.
pretty new. It's fairly new to the US. I mean, they
Hmm.
really were just starting to really bring it over, I think, when I kind of picked it up. It was weird because I named my salon Atomic Orchard, and I was like, "Well, of course you would have an alter ego." And I was like, well, the funny part was their color is called Techno Fruit. And I was like, "Well, yeah, we listen to Techno Fruit at Atomic Orchard." Like, duh. I was like, it makes sense. I feel like I'm always looking for signs in life. I'm like, is this a
We
sign?
were meant to
I'm like, I think
be.
it is.
We're alive. We're meant to be. Is that, does
Yeah.
it also include a gloss?
Oh, it's
Is that your favorite
amazing.
gloss as
So it
well?
has pH balancing drops. So one tube makes
Okay.
a demi, a permanent, or semi-permanent. So yeah, that's all
Oh,
same thing with Lonza. Lonza, it's one tube can be a translucent demi, a regular demi, a semi-permanent, or a permanent color. And so I like that because I don't like all those little bottles that like shades and all those.
yes.
That's too much storage for me. And I like, it's going to be spot on if it came out of the same tube, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
So
exactly.
it makes it
Exactly.
easier and it's cost efficient and it's storage efficient.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that. Yeah, I'm
Now I like
intrigued.
I will full disclosure, I don't necessarily love their shampoos and conditioners. I like
Hmm.
thick shampoos and conditioners. I want,
They're runny.
I don't care if it's foamy or I don't care if it's not foamy, but I need it to feel like I don't have to use a gallon of it. Yeah, it's a little
Yeah,
bit like,
feel like it's getting clean. And I don't know why I
yeah,
decided to wear
I don't love
bangs. Like I
that.
said, I'd never do that.
Oh, keep
Yeah,
talking about
yeah.
growing out bangs. Yeah, I feel you.
No, but oh gosh, I have a
Getting the
choice
Ella, you
because
got the Ella Langley going on.
or whatever. I'm like, I don't even know what this is because I switch out my hair all over the place. I'm getting ready to cut my hair into a pixie, so I just do whatever. All right. So before you gave us so much, I mean, thank you because this is a valuable episode and I try to add value so that people can actually learn something, be inspired, all the things. So thank you for just imparting your wisdom on whoever's watching today because I learned a whole lot. Okay. Now, my burning question
Okay.
to end this amazing conversation. If two stylists use the same bleach, developer, toner, formulas, and products, and I am Shady Boots, why does one create like expensive looking hair and the other one does not?
Oh, it's definitely technique. It's
Okay.
definitely application. If you tell me
Okay.
it's all those things and they're doing exactly the same thing, then someone's not applying something right.
Yeah. So if somebody was like, God, I just can't get it right. What am I missing? If you had to guess, what do you think they're missing?
Um, I'm guessing they don't have enough experience and have it figured out exactly what
Education?
they
Is it
yeah,
education?
education. It's
There you
education, it's
go.
experience. They say practice makes permanence. So it doesn't make it
Oh,
perfect, but it makes it permanent.
yes, and that's a great loop because we started this episode with the Del Oro method. We're going to end this with the Del Oro method.
Love it.
Get it? That part. All right,
I,
so here is I no one gets out of here without one of my games because that's all I really like to do is play games. So,
that's why I did this show.
yeah, I added one called What Stopped the Scroll because when I'm on my scrolling journey, I try not to doom scroll because that's a waste, right? I try to, what stops it, now I save it. I'm like, oh, why did I stop there? I'll revisit that later. So when it comes to hair, I'm going to make you my partner in crime and watch this with me because I was gobsmacked when I saw this. Um, okay, here it is. You don't have to respond. You don't have to be complicit. But when I saw this, I, as a cutter, I felt like somebody had stabbed me in my soul. But you also do extensions, right? So
I do.
you're gonna feel some of my pain too. Are you ready for this? And I'm not even turning on the volume because it was in Spanish or something. We can't understand them anyway. All right, here we go. Girl, girl, no, no. And then I went to the comments. They were in Spanish. No, no, no. Mm-mm,
It's
mm-mm.
so cringy. It makes me like, oh God, don't do it.
Do you see that?
Yeah, that's so terrible.
It's not blended either. And
Not at all.
that girl's
It's
hair
like
is
a set.
trash.
Right. They tell you you're only supposed to go 2 times the length of the hair. So they should have cut that off halfway.
They should have cut that off halfway, and they should not have destroyed the bottom of her whole
Uh-uh.
head.
No, when they take those
Oh,
out, it's gonna be
that's
so
so
thin
much
and skinny.
or add another row, something.
It's gonna look like this when they take it out.
Yeah.
So sad. It
Oh,
makes
I
me
was
feel so
like,
sad when he says, I'm like, oh God, poor girl.
and then he's an educator, and there was a part where he was talking and kind of educated. I'm like, no, bro, that ain't it. I'm sorry. I
It was
digress.
a thing, but I
Okay.
know it's wrong.
I know. So that is a shady game. And for those of us that really don't feel good tearing people down, I don't feel like I'm tearing him down. I'm tearing that
No,
process down. That don't
no.
ever, ever do that ever to anyone.
My
Ever.
first, so in 2020, the first class I taught was actually hand-tied extensions on the Olaplex users page on Facebook while we were shut down. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's fun.
They
I
look
love
good.
that. Yeah. All right. All right. So let me give you a game now. Have fun with you. So we leave feeling good. I call this the 60-second blowout. It's basically rapid fire so that we get to know you a little bit better. So I'm going to set a 60-second timer and we'll see how quickly you can answer these questions. But it shouldn't be a big deal because you know yourself. You need no coaching to answer questions about yourself,
That's
right?
true.
Okay. What's always playing in your car right now?
Stick figure.
Most used emoji.
Heart.
Reality TV or true crime?
True crime.
If you weren't doing hair, what would you be doing?
I just hope we've been born rich.
One thing people are surprised to learn about you.
I'm fluent in Spanish.
Ooh, favorite way to
Mhm.
spend a day off.
At the beach.
What's a skill you're still trying to master?
Probably just really going hard with my educating.
Biggest risk you've ever taken?
I'm a jumper. Probably opening a hair salon.
Yes, that part. And I'm going to ask the rest of the questions. Last thing you impulse bought? A car?
Not too-
A house?
no. I'm not very much an impulse shopper.
You're
Probably
not?
color
Okay.
brushes though. It would be color brushes. They
Okay.
said I'm
All
right
right.
when I walk in the salon and just salon centric. They're right there. I grab them every
There you
time.
go. Do you have a hidden talent?
Not so much. Just I can just speak Spanish.
All right. What's your current obsession?
Currently,
Love Island? That's mine.
I don't watch very much TV. I'm a music
Oh, good for
person.
you. Good for you.
Yeah, I
What's
was like,
your what's your most embarrassing salon moment?
besides the one where I tried to leave in the middle of the haircut.
Yeah. If your personality were a hair color, what color would it be? Well, in
Oh,
there.
blonde. You know it's blonde.
Yes, yes, love it. Where can people find more of you, Audra, in your amazing journey into education?
You can find me on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all under Audra Paints Hair.
Thank you. Awesome, you
Mhm.
guys. And thank you for joining another episode. You can find me always at Trendy W Kim Allison on the socials. KimAllison.net is my information, my website where you can find everything about me. If you're watching, thank you so much. If you have not subscribed, hit the button, notification bell as well. Listening on podcasts, a 5-star review would really help me grow the podcast so I can bring more amazing guests like Audra. And we will see you on the next episode. Bye, Audra. Thank you.
Hi, Kim. Thanks for having me.